soft like a verse with no chorus, soft heels tapping on hardwood truth. She never turned around, but he knew when she would leave by the tremble of her silence and the rest between her steps. Her lipstick wasn't red that night, but the air remembered anyway. He could smell the bridge before the song ever broke. He knew the tune by heart, the one she hummed without humming, the one she buried in glances and asks. He kept time with her sighs, tuned in to her exits, found rhythm in the way she didn't stay. She had no sheet music, no lyric, just the ache of a melody too proud to beg. He listened, he always did, even when the band packed up and the night tried to forget her. Some men dance, some chase, but he just remembered that was his love language, repetition without demand. He knew the tune by heart, even the part she'd never sang, especially those. A smoky saxophone traces the shape of her leaving. Notes curl like smoke in a hush after applause. She never asked him to stay, she never asked him anything, but he remembered her in measures and played her softly until the end. The tune by heart, even the part she never sang, especially those. A smoky saxophone traces the shape of her leaving. Notes curl like smoke in the hush after applause. She never asked him to stay, she never asked him anything, but he remembered her in measures and played her softly until the end, until the end. She left no note, no broken frame, just her perfume on the hallway light. There were no suitcases, no slam of the door, just one less cup on the table. She slipped away like the last bar of a song that never got played, live again. He stood in the kitchen, holding a spoon, like it was her hand he forgot to let go. The silence didn't rush in, it strolled, confident she wouldn't be back. She never taught him goodbyes, only how to hold on, just a little too late. She was a vanishing verse, a ribbon unstuck from its rhythm, and he was the echo trying to stay whole. The ashtray still held her last breath. He couldn't bring himself to empty it. The piano looked offended, like it knew it wasn't her anymore, filling the room with meaning. He played it once, the way she used to smile softly from another room. Some people announce they're leaving, some don't. She just melted out of the melody, unscored, unresolved, but unforgettable. She never taught him goodbyes, but she was fluent in distance, and he was fluent in waiting. A lonely piano gently retraces her name, one key at a time, like footsteps in slow rewind. He still checks the hallway, still listens for a coat on the hook. Not hope, just habit. Before she spoke, he already knew the tempo. She was trying not to fall into. He learned her rhythm by the rise and fall of her shoulders, the pause before each "I'm fine", the catch in her laugh when the room forgot to listen. There were songs she wouldn't play in front of anyone else, but with him she let silence do the singing. Even in crowds he could feel the stutter between the beats of her pretending. He lived for the tempo between her breaths, that hush where her truth tried to escape. Not the smile, not the dance, but the slow exhale when the night held no more light. He didn't need lyrics to hear her breaking beautifully. She used to tap her fingers on the edge of the bar like she was searching for a rhythm that wouldn't betray her. He memorized each tap, each flick of her wrist, like jazz without a time signature, but still somehow in time. She was never early, never late, always arriving in half steps, like a woman choreographed by memory and softened by storms. He listened for the tempo between her breaths, because that's where she lived, right between the heard a song he still couldn't stop humming. She never asked him to solve her, just not to look away. When her voice cracked on the second verse, he didn't rush the verses, didn't turn the page too soon. He waited between her words, where the meaning always trembled. When she fell quiet mid-sentence, he nodded, not needing the rest to know how it ended. He let her ache in real time, never interrupting the silence that told the better story. He listened like a song should be heard. No tapping feet, no polite applause, just stillness, just breathe, just reverence for the kind of woman who sings without singing. She once told him, if you ever hear me cry in rhythm, don't fix it, just remember it. He did. Every note she dropped, he picked up in memory. War like a record grew, he'd never dare smooth out. Most men tune in for melody, but miss the weight of pauses. He lived in the rest where most lovers go deaf. He listened like a song should be heard, not to reply, but to remember, not to fix, but to feel. A soft saxophone hovers like her breath on a mirror, melting each note into the air she left behind. She never said thank you, but her silence softened when he was near, and that was louder than anything she ever said. Some voices fade like perfume, hers didn't. It stayed in the velvet of every silence. She never raised her voice, she didn't need to. It curled around his spine like cigarette smoke, with a secret soft but final. He once heard her laugh and forgot his last 3 heartbreaks. He once heard her whisper and never trusted loud women again. There were no fireworks, just that low hum that turned every room into a confession booth. She was a woman you can't unhear, even that makes forgetting feel dishonest. He replayed her sighs in empty rooms, swore he could hear her say his name. Inside slow jazz records and winter winds, and maybe he was wrong, but some echoes feel like truth that time just refused to edit. She said more with silence than most say with speeches. He remembered every pause like a lyric that refused to rhyme. You don't forget her, you relive her every time the lights dim and the piano starts without you. She's the line stuck in your head when you're supposed to be sleeping. The one part of the song that never quite lets you go. The piano no wanders alone, as if it's still waiting for her voice to reappear between the keys. She left no voicemail, no final verse, but his silence, it still sings in her key. She never feared silence, she just hated when it was skipped. He understood that too well. He didn't reach for her when the silence stretched long. He let it unfold like steam from morning coffee, or sorrow finding shape in the dark. She would stare past him, eyes locked on something that hurt before he ever arrived. And he knew if he spoke too soon, he'd erase what she was finally letting herself feel. Don't rush the silence, it's where the real lyrics live. Behind the jazz, beyond the laughter, before the goodbye. She trusted him because he waited when most filled the room with noise. There were nights she said nothing for hours, and he loved those most. Not because he was patient, but because her quiet was more honest than any song. He memorized the rhythm of her stillness, the pulse between her words, and in that sacred hush, he heard a woman finally breathing. Some lovers fill space, some leave room. He made her silence feel like a stage built just for her healing. Don't rush the silence, it holds the truth. No chorus can carry like smoke in an empty room, stretching each note as if afraid to end too soon. When she finally spoke, it was never a love song. It was just the sound of someone finally being heard. She never sang in major keys. Her lullabies were laments, but somehow he found comfort there. She whispered in C minor, like the dusk whispering back to the moon. Even her laughter curved downward, warm but never weightless. He met her in a bar where the band didn't smile, she didn't either, but her eyes hummed a harmony he couldn't stop chasing. She said little with words, but the notes in her breath always found the aching spots. She whispered in C minor, where heartbreak breathes slow, and memory holds the last note. She was never meant to be cheerful, she was made to be real, and he fell in love with the half notes in her silence. He once asked her if she ever sang in brighter chords. She said once, and never told him when. But every night she pulled a little light out of low tones and folded it between verses, meant only for those who don't flinch at shadows. Most men want fireworks, he learned to love candles, soft, steady, unapologetically dim. She whispered in C minor, and in her hush he heard storms that never made the news. A lonely saxophone curls downward, sliding across each key, like it remembers her voice exactly. She didn't need a spotlight, she needed someone who could sit in the hush and still hear her sing. She sang every song but her own, and when the music swelled, she fell silent, like it hurt to be heard. The band knew her voice, but not her story. she left verses unfinished and let the spotlight pass. Every night she stood there, sequins catching the sax light, smile painted on like war paint. She crooned borrowed sorrows and never dared to add her own. Some nights the notes trembled, but no one noticed. They clapped for the melody, not the girl inside it. The chorus she never sang was the one that mattered most. It lived behind her lips, trembled in the hush between verses, and ended before it began. She kept it tucked inside, like a letter that would ruin someone. There were lovers who asked, but she gave them bridges, never choruses. She said, some things aren't meant to be sung out loud. And they mistook that for mystery, but it was just protection. The piano player knew he'd glance at her right before the final note, hoping just once she'd give them the real refrain. But her pain had rhythm, not melody. And rhythm doesn't beg for applause, it just stays. The chorus she never sang echoed louder than any lyric, and still they swayed to her silence. The piano tiptoes down her quiet path, each key a footstep she never dared to take in song. Long after she left the stage, the missing chorus haunted the room, like perfume that hadn't quite given up. He danced with her through every verse, held her steady through the bridges, and hummed along without asking what key her heart broke in. They made it through the first lines, her eyes shining in borrowed light, her voice steady with hope that maybe this time the refrain would hold. But the second time around she missed a beat, and he noticed not the break, just the silence. That's where the refrain fell apart, not in volume, but in trust. She sang softer each time until the chorus didn't come at all. And when he asked why, she just said, "It doesn't feel right in my throat anymore." They never rehearsed the ending. He thought they'd repeat it forever, but she was counting rests, memorizing the fade that always came too soon. By the time he caught the rhythm, she'd already left the melody, just a harmony in his memory, off-key, unfinished. Not every refrain returns, some crack on the way back, and never echo again. Where the refrain fell apart, there was no silence, only an ache in the beat that never resolved. A muted trumpet bends through broken measures, grieving what the chorus couldn't carry. He plays the song now, but skips the part she once sang. The music knows, the crowd doesn't. She never sang the full thing, just fragments. As if memory had a tempo, she hummed in past tense. As if each note was something she no longer owned. In the kitchen, by the crack window, she'd hum over the kettle like steam held her sorrow. He'd ask what song it was, she'd smile and say, one that already happened. No lyrics, no chorus, just the shape of something that once meant everything. She hummed in past tense, a soft reminder that love like melody can live without words. A tune without a promise, but with too much memory to forget. When she dusted the record shelf, she'd hum slower, dragging the tune like her feet were still dancing in some other year. He once caught the rhythm, thought it was his cue, but her eyes told him, you're not in this song anymore. Some people replay memories, she resang them in the language of breath and broken key. She hummed in past tense, never loud enough to haunt, but always close enough to hurt. Oh, a smoky saxophone retraces the hush between her hums, bending each note toward the moment she left. Now the house is quiet, but sometimes the kettle sings back, and he swears she's still in the steam. Past tense, never loud enough to haunt, but always close enough to hurt. A smoky saxophone retraces the hush between her hums, bending each note toward the moment she left. Now the house is quiet, but sometimes the kettle sings back, and he swears she's still in the steam. He didn't forget the melody just the color of her silence between the notes. He played the old record slow, letting the needle stutter where her voice used to live. In every piano phrase, he searched for her laugh, that offbeat joy she always carried like a secret. But all that remained was a room too full of echo, and keys that sighed like they missed her too. He missed her in minor keys, where sorrow curled gentle around the lower tones. He missed the sadness she never admitted, the weight she hid in soft shock. It was never the melody he longed for, it was the ache beneath it. She never sang when he asked, only when she thought he wasn't listening. And now he'd give anything to be the one she once trusted with her voice. At night he'd sit by the dusty upright, tap one chord, then wait as if she'd answer back from a different room in time. Love doesn't always leave in crescendo. Sometimes it fades like a jazz refrain in smoke, half remembered, never resolved. He missed her in minor key, not the girl in the spotlight, but the woman behind the curtain, who sang for no one and everything. The piano plays in quiet apologies, a confession too late for her to hear. Now every note feels borrowed and he keeps the silence just loud enough to remember.
They said he played alone, but her shadow was always tapping the tempo behind him. He took the solo every night, bent notes, eyes closed, breathe heavy like memory. But what no one saw was her hand on the railing, backstage, mouthing every bar he thought he owned. He played the ache, she held it. The solo wasn't just his, it belonged to her silence, to her patience, to the woman who never left. Even when the spotlight did, she was the rest between his notes, the part no audience applauded, but the music needed. When she finally walked, she didn't slam the door, she just stopped humming. When he practiced, he noticed, not all at once, but in the silence between sets, where her harmony used to wait. Now he plays softer, not for show, but for the memory that once stayed in tune with him. You don't share a stage for years without sharing the ghost, and his trumpet still carries her in every bend and It was carved from her listening, from all the ways she let him shine without asking for a chorus. The trumpet whispers where she used to stand, wavering as if the air still remembers her patience. Some solos are really duets, but only one voice gets the credit.
She didn't storm out, she just stopped dancing before the beat did it. He was still mid-solo and she gathered her coat. No rush, no fuss, just rhythm slowing. Like her heart knew the set list better than he did. She used to sway with every downbeat, laugh off-key changes, twirl when the tempo cracked. But this time even the drums couldn't convince her to stay. She'd left in halftime, not a full goodbye, just a softer rhythm sliding out the side door. He kept playing like the moment wouldn't notice, but the bar went colder, the air felt offbeat. The bass tried to hold her, the lights flickered a plea, but she'd already given too many encores to a song that never learned her name. She didn't slam anything, didn't cry, just let the silence take her, one shoe after the other, like a metronome with no one left to keep time for. Some departures sound loud, others echo longer, because they didn't make a sound when they broke the rhythm. She left in halftime, slipped between the notes like dust through light, and he kept playing, but now he always starts a little too late. each note missing a partner, it one stands beside. No one remembers the exact exact chord she left on, only that the band never quite got it right after.
She never raised her voice, but when she stopped speaking, the whole room listened. The trumpets played their hearts out, saxophones curled like smoke, drums brushed softly like rain. But she just sat there, one elbow on the velvet booth, eyes glazed like yesterday's whiskey, and lips sealed like they'd once held every answer. He kept glancing between chords, waiting for her reaction, but all he got was the quiet that hurt more than her shouting ever did. Her silence played louder than the band. It filled every corner with questions he wasn't brave enough to ask. No screaming, no slamming doors, just stillness heavy enough to drown a melody. She used to hum with the upright bass, tap her ring on the table in time. But that night she didn't even blink when the chorus hit. The singer reached for high notes, the spotlight burned gold, but the silence beside him outshined everything. Even the bartender poured slower. There's a difference between leaving and letting go. She didn't walk away, she just vanished inside herself, one unspoken word at a time. Her silence played louder than the band. It screamed in spaces no saxophone could fill. We'd wept in measures even the piano feared to follow. The piano tiptoes around her absence, playing softer, as if it doesn't want to disturb her ghost. He still plays the room, but when she's not there, it's just noise. The room emptied, the lights dimmed, but her voice still echoed in the quiet between heartbeats. The applause faded like breath on glass, and the bar sank into that tender hush right before the broom touches stage. He stood there, hands still on the keys, ears ringing not from volume but from everything unsaid. No one stayed to see the way he listened to a silence that still wore her name. He heard her even after the music stopped,
In the hush behind the curtains, in the creak of the old stage floor, not in melody, but in the ache she left behind, not in lyrics, but in the pause where her laugh used to live. She'd stand by the piano after shows, hairpin loose, holding a drink she never finished. Now only the stool remains tucked in the same spot, like it's waiting for a ghost with good timing. The silence is thick, but it hums like she might still be humming too, from somewhere he can't reach. You don't need a sound to remember a voice. You just need an emptiness that knows where it once belonged. He heard her even after the music stopped, the way old records crackle before they begin again. A presence so soft, it rewrites the silence. The trumpet sighs like her name slipping out when no one's around to catch it. Now every room plays her differently, but he always hears that same quiet she left behind.
In sync, but the music still found them at the same lonely tempo. He liked his coffee cold, she burned her tongue every time. He lingered in bridges, she leapt into verses. Love for them was always half a second off. A kiss delayed, a glance missed, a note played just after the downbeat. Love was always offbeat, but they still kept time with mismatched hearts, waltzing through wrong chord, two souls too tender to land together, but too soft to walk away. He'd play her name in triplets, she'd smile in silence from the shadowed booth. He never asked her to sing, afraid the harmony might ruin the distance. She wrote him letters she never mailed. He wrote songs that always forgot the second verse. Some romances live in rehearsal, perfect only in what never happened. And maybe that's why they lasted longer than they should have. Love was always
jazz solo without a chord charm, a rhythm you feel but never quite follow. They never found the downbeat, but the silence felt like home. The saxophone stumbles through the melody, tender and out of step, like it remembers her too well to keep rhythm. Some hearts never sink, but that doesn't mean they weren't playing the same song.
He swore he saw her name scrawled in the margins of every love song he played. It wasn't in the title or the first bar, but somewhere between a rest and a held note he found her. A crooked scribble in pencil, a half-erased memory where the crescendo used to bloom. Every time the melody rose, he felt her, not in lyrics, but in the way his fingers slowed, like they were remembering skin. Her name was in the sheet music, not printed, but whispered between slurs and accidentals. No one else saw it, but it was there, a secret dedication the keys never dared say aloud. She used to hum while he played, soft and almost off pitch, but he matched her anyway. Now the room is quiet, but his hands still pause in all the places she used to fill. He doesn't need a photograph, he's got measures and measures of her smile, etched in every repeat. You can't erase a muse with silence, especially when the chords still know her by heart. Her name was in the sheet music, like a ghost on the page, guiding every diminuendo back to her. She never wrote a lyric, but she became the song. The piano sways gently, as if her fingertips still press just behind his own. He'll never play it the same way twice, because love, like hers, improvises itself into everything. Was in the sheet music, like a ghost on the page, guiding every diminuendo back to her. She never wrote a lyric, but she became the song. The piano sways gently, as if her fingertips still press just behind his own. He'll never play it the same way twice, because love, like hers, improvises itself into everything. Some songs fade, some songs change, but one stayed with his heart in its hands. It wasn't a hit, it barely filled the room, but when she sang it, everything else dimmed. He forgot his lines, the piano played itself. Even the bartender froze in that hush only real love can cause. The song had no bridge, just a raw unraveling, like her voice had finally let go of something it held too long. It was the song he never forgot, not because it was perfect, but because it was her. Every flat note was a tear, every pause a wound. He heard it once, but it stayed, even when she didn't. Years passed, clubs closed, records cracked, but in quiet rooms he still hummed that one unraveling line she left behind. He never dared perform it again, too tender to hers. But some nights he played around its edges, like tracing the outline of a ghost. You don't need a recording when your bones remember the chorus. You just close your eyes and bleed. It was the song he never forgot, the melody that undressed his pride, the lyrics she never finished. She left it hanging like a question, and he's been answering with silence ever since. The trumpet cries low and lonely, holding the note she never returned to. He played 1,000 songs after, but only one ever knew his name. His name. The crowd had gone, the spotlight faded, but the story hadn't finished, because some women aren't meant to be finales. She never needed the last line, never asked for the applause. She entered like a refrain you almost missed the first time. Soft, steady, unapologetically between verses, she taught him that love doesn't always build to a climax. Sometimes it just moves you from one truth to the next. She was never the ending, not even the song. She was the moment you realized the music was never about you. She was the bridge, not the ending, the quiet change in key that made the rest of his life sing in a different pitch. She didn't finish the song, she changed its shape. And long after the needle lifted, long after the record cooled, her echo played in everything he touched. Not a goodbye, not even a pause, just a shift, a bridge, still holding him mid-measure. of his life, sing in a different pitch. She didn't finish the song, she changed its shape. And long after the needle lifted, long after the record cooled, her echo played in everything he touched. Not a goodbye, not even a pause, just a shift, a bridge, still holding him mid-measure.